It's a very short Sicha, and it continues on, so we'll see. If this works, then I'll take a few more pictures. Paragraph Yud Aleph. Echad Henyanim b'Parshas b'Midbar, one of the subjects in this parsha of the Torah, b'Midbar, and the one after it, which is called Nasoi, Hu HaMishkan Shehukam b'Midbar. It is the Mishkan, the tabernacle that was set up in the desert. V'chalukas atafkidim, and the giving out of jobs, hakadoshim, holy jobs, v'avarat amishkan mimakom lamakom, when they moved the Mishkan from one place to another. How many journeys did they make in the desert? How many? 42. And the 42 journeys they made in the desert, each time they took apart the whole entire tabernacle, and they had to cover it up. They put some of it into wagons, and the ark they had to carry on their shoulder, and they went from place to place. And everyone, Gershon, Kahat, the Merari, those are the three sons of Levi. They carried the Mishkan. Davar zeh, this more indicates shekam kashi Yisrael nimtzeh b'midbar, even when the Jews are found in the desert. Just 1 second. Lamendel yeshlo at the laptop is it? Huh? Oh, what's it? Okay, beseder. Can't. Bon. And Davar zeh, this more indicates shekam kashi Yisrael nimtzeh b'midbar, even when the Jews are found in the desert. B'kocham lahakim makom kadosh. Even when the Jews are in the desert, they can make a holy place. Mishkan, the Shechinah, the Elokis, a dwelling for a house for the dwelling of Hashem. Shetish Rabbi Yisrael, that it should be among the Jews. B'chalal in general, u'b'kerav kol echad Yisrael b'frad, and inside of each individual Jew. And as when the Jews were in the desert, they could make a holy temple in the desert, a portable holy temple, not only in the desert, but inside of each and every Jew. Just like there is a physical desert, lamata, in this world, bo shorarim, gormim, aklimim, kitzonim, and in it there rules all sorts of elements and weather, climate, which is extreme. Very, very hot. Here in Israel, it's like today it's going to be like 102 or something like that. Something. In the desert, it's 140. 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Blazing hot. That's what the desert is. The calm meaning mazikim, and there's all sorts of weird creatures, all sorts of scorpions and bizarre snakes over there. Kain yeshnu gamba midbar ruchani. The same thing is also in the spiritual desert. Bo, Sholtot, Hashkafot, Ruchniut, Mazikot. There also is what's called a spiritual desert. And in the spiritual desert, there's all sorts of there's a spiritual desert that there are all sorts of scorpions and snakes and spiders, spiritual sorts of weird ideas, destructive ideas. Davar zeh, this efshari is possible. Gam ba'aretz shemebechinas gashmias hu gan poreach. This is possible also in a land where even this spiritual desert can even be in the middle of New York and Tel Aviv, any place where there's a lot of water, and in the desert there's no water, there's no, right there, there's no, that's not a desert. It says there can be all the people that live in this New York or wherever it is, and they have as much water as they want, and there's no scorpions of this, that each one of them is in a desert. What do you mean each one is in a desert? Each one has his own little scorpions and his own little snakes and his bad ideas that are in his mind. Davar said this, they have to do more lanu. This teaches us, I didn't what's a little made this show. More lanu, this teaches us Hakadosh, the Holy Torah teaches us ki toch hametzius b'midbar ruchani, that in the spiritual desert, efshari, it is possible, v'lochin yesh tzorech, therefore it is necessary and it is obligatory to build a holy temple. So what do we say? There's a spiritual desert. What's a spiritual desert? A place where there's no Torah, no water. Torah is water. A place where there's no Torah, no commandments. Then what happens? There's all sorts of weird ideas pop up into people's minds. People get angry and they get depressed and they get all sorts of crazy desires and things like this. These are like snakes and scorpions. It says, good, that's the way the world is. Your job is to build a holy temple. And to carry it, and to make progress with the dwelling of Hashem, ad boel eretz hakodesh beruchas Hashem, until you come to the Holy Land, which the Holy Land in our case is Mashiach. So in other words, just because you're found in a desert and because you have problems in your life and because you're surrounded by people that also have problems and difficulties, etc., and the government is not right, and the police aren't right, and the business is not right, and your friends aren't, and the neighbors, and the this, all the trouble, it says your job is to make a holy temple. You're wandering around in the desert, your job is to make a holy temple. And eventually, this will bring you to what's called a wide holy land, namely the arrival of the Mashiach, which is something that we are not just promised in the future, it's supposed to be something that's right now. We're supposed to be going crazy. Why isn't it happening now? Haroazot. This teaching is the call Yisrael to every Jew. Especially the women. Shahari Yadu, it's known to Labinyan Amigdash, Nanu Anashim Rishona, because it's known that when the tabernacle was being built in the desert, the first ones that contributed were the women. Od lifnei hagvarim, and it says they also gave more. Nashim ala nashim, it says. But midbar ruchni, same is also in the spiritual desert. Shel-chugim mesuyamim shebe'em shora tohu vavohu bi'adut bechlal. There are certain groups, certain, how do you call it, philosophies, certain, I don't know how you call it, groups of Jews, that they are totally confused as to what is Judaism and what is God. Kol shechina, much more so, b'orach chaim chasiduti, and especially Chassidic life. It's a very, very common thing. Who would have dreamed, right? Who would dream that in the Holy Land of Israel, that they invite and encourage things that are destructive to Jews? They invite powers that want to destroy Judaism. Who would believe it? Total confusion. Right? You have the whole Knesset, you have all these things. They invite missionaries to come in, they give guns to the Arabs. They have these weird parades and things like that. And they encourage these things. This is destructive. This is total desert. These are scorpions, snakes. The ideas, not the people. These are snakes and scorpions that they're trying to destroy the Jewish people. These terrible things. We're in a desert. What are you supposed to do? It says mainly is the women. The women have the merit, and they have the, the eternal connection to the infinite one. They can be the first ones to establish the tabernacle of the Jewish people. I know that there's now, let's say, women from the Gerer Hasidim, they go into these shopping malls and they give out candles to ladies. Right? And their husbands won't do it. The husbands, they sit at home, they say, oh, I've got to learn Torah. And the women, they go right out there and they fight. Right? The women, the miyuchad, especially Yeshli's course and the importance of children, teaching children. So we can see clearly, if you begin to teach a child in the proper way, from his youth, is muftachim b'hatzlacha rabbi, then you'll have more success than if you do it later on. So what's the Rebbe trying to say? The Rebbe is trying to say the Torah was given to all the Jewish people. The Torah was given a desert. And after the Torah was given, God said that it's not a one-time occurrence. You have to take these tablets and you have to put them into the Holy of Holies and carry this wherever you go. And the whole thing of the Holy of Holies is that outside there's a temple and you serve God. But you're in a desert. Come on, we're in a desert. Wait till we get to Yerushalayim. No. Says the Rebbe, the tabernacle is in the desert. So it is in our personal lives. There are things in your personal life that try to make you forget about Hashem. That's called a desert. When a person really forgets about Hashem, and it could be a religious person with big payas and a beard and everything, but he can forget about Hashem. All of a sudden he gets angry at somebody, he takes revenge, he gets to cheat. Terrible things happen. Just because you're religious doesn't mean you're already a holy. It says you can be in a place where the world is a desert. It says the Rebbe, what's our job? To lock ourselves in our house and have insect spray so that no scorpions come in? Says the Rebbe, no. We have to make a holy temple. We have to go out and we'll find out that there's no danger. When you put a little bit of light, all these things go away. That's the job of the Jewish people. Okay, let's do a little bit more. We have 5 more minutes. Today we're going Yud Gimel. It's on the page that I gave you over. If anybody has this page, I'm sorry I sent it to you. If you want to try to put it up, I'll send it out next time. Let me just read it in English because we only have 5 minutes. I'll tell you, God willing, another story. Today is Shabbos Mavorchin Sivan. This Shabbos, well, I already spoke on Shabbos. That's what's going to be this week, right? This week is Shabbos Mavorchin. So therefore, this week is really the week that we're preparing for the giving of the Torah. The preparation for giving of the Torah is what we call peace and unity. What is peace and unity? The Rebbe is going to explain a little bit, but I'll just say why peace and unity now? Because it says, Vayichan Yisrael ki ish echad b'lev echad. It says when the Jews got into Mount Sinai, got into the desert of Sinai, it says that the Jewish people, he camped. It doesn't say they camped. He camped. Why? Because they were all like one person with the same heart. Bikesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell the Torah Yisrael that God wanted to give the Torah to the Jews when they left Egypt. But they had all sorts of arguments when they came out of Egypt. Right? When they came up to the Yam Suf. It says some people wanted to go back, some people wanted to fight, some people wanted to pray, some people wanted to jump in. They had all sorts of different opinions. Kishabol the Sinai, when they came to the desert of Sinai, Hushvu Kulam Agurachas. They all said, let's stop fighting. Let's just think about Hashem. Omer Kodesh Baruch Hu, God said, a Torah Kula Shalom, the whole purpose of the Torah is peace. Who am I going to give the Torah? To one who loves peace. Now, what does peace mean, by the way? Peace means that everybody is different. And they harmonize one with the other, like an orchestra, right? You go to an orchestra, you see there's, 100 people, 100 pieces in an orchestra, 110 pieces? 110 violins. Okay, maybe for the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, if the composer is really good, maybe 15 minutes is good. But after that, all you hear is the same range and the same tone. 110 French horns. But if you have a French horn and there's different French horns, everybody has a different part. Then you have the strings, you have the oboe, you have the woodwinds, you have this. If it sounds, this is something, everything is different. That's what's called peace. Peace is when there's opposites, and the opposites all come together for a common goal.
I don't know what he's thinking.
What? What's wrong? Hello? Oh. Hashalom va'achtos, this idea of peace and unity, this is the preparation for Matan Torah, has to be in Torah mitzvahs. Like it says, Vayichan Yisrael, the Jewish people, he camped, neged hahar. Why? Because of the mountain. This is the mountain where they're going to get the Torah. So in other words, the whole idea of receiving the Torah is to appreciate, first of all, to have a positive goal, and to appreciate everybody else's part in achieving this goal. Let's see. The Bible of peace. You can also not only receive the Torah, but you can also And you say, make the Torah active. Activate the Torah. Huh? Yes? We said it before. We said this before, that if there's unity, God says, even though Chibur Atzabim, Ephraim, even though that Ephraim was worshiping idols, but because they have peace between them. Remember, we learned that yesterday about the Tower of Babel, that because there was peace between them, God said, I can't. Like it says, here it is, like it wasn't the Tower of Babel. Like when they built the Tower of Babel, because there was peace between the people, as God said, they can do whatever they want. They'll have success. I have to confuse their language. That's how God made the world. That's the idea of peace. But if there is no peace, if it's not for a real reason, if it's not according to the Torah, if the peace is just like they did for the Tower of Babel, they did it in order to aggrandize themselves, then if it's peace that's based on a false foundation, then it won't last. This is not a way to bring blessing from Hashem. And especially Torah, and especially when we're talking about the Torah and God. Like it says, the Torah is, I wrote it and I gave my soul. The Torah has to be in your inside. That this is impossible. But the souls are rooted in God's essence. So how can we possibly receive the Torah? How can we possibly do the commandments if we're not somehow or other rooted in God's essence? It doesn't make any sense. It's like playing music for a deaf person. The Torah and the mitzvahs are godly. It has to be given only the Jewish people who are godly. Therefore, if the Jewish people connect themselves to this godliness of the Torah, and they realize each person is also godly, then they can be the vessel for receiving the Torah. Who did God consult with when he made the world? In the souls of the tzaddikim. So therefore, there has to be unity. You have to recognize that the same way that you are a creation, unique creation, of Hashem, so is every other Jew, and everyone's unique. There has to be unity in the idea of Torah and mitzvahs. Hainu shehatanua shalo b'avis Israel, that it should be expressed in making people come closer to the Torah. That is what brings true unity, and we'll talk about what this implies tomorrow.